with Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush life, that dad life, and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, all right? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo here with you. Happy weekend to you, Mark.
I'm glad to be here. I'm trying to dodge cicadas all day long. It's a real fun time here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, those of us down in the urban core are doing a little bit of pointing and laughing at our northern friends right now. Overwhelmed by we went to Kings Island last week, and it was our first noting of the cicadas arrival, and it did not go over well with my children. They were not happy about it, and they don't understand them, and they now are really concerned about going to Kings Island the rest of the summer.
Now imagine if you lived at Kings Island and your kids are like terrified to go outside because your 5-year-old, you don't want her to be on screens the whole summer, but now she's scared of these ugly bugs outside. It's not going well.
Well, if I lived in Kings Island, I get to hang out in the Fest House. I do boo blasters a lot, right? Like that's
all the air conditioned stuff.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's plenty of good times.
Your kids could join one of the bands that does shows in there and that kind of thing, and it's very enriching.
Yeah.
Are you flying a cicada flag at least? Do you have a cicada season flag?
No cicada season flag. I know our friends at Cincy Shirts have their cicada merch out.
They do.
So the cicada dad hat was out. Saw that. It's like, you got to be into it to wear the dad hat. But I appreciate the people that are out here. Like I'm here for cicada. They have a great shirt that says "Here for a good time, not a long time" with the cicada on it, which is a good one. It's a good one. Make sure you check that out. But I do not have a cicada flag. I still have. I know this is against what I have traditionally been about with flags on this show. I've had the American flag up since Memorial Day weekend, so it's still there right now. I like to be a little more seasonal and not your standard flag, but I do feel like Memorial Day is a time, and it has stayed up all week. I haven't switched it out yet.
I mean, your big holiday is right around the corner, as has been pointed out to us by a few Growl Pals. Flag Day is in a couple weeks. Right,
Flag Day is in a couple of weeks. It's a big one. It's
a big day for you.
It is a big day for me. I believe the Daner Cornhole Classic flag is going to be out and flying that day because I think it's going to coincide with Flag Day, which it's like two holidays in one. You know, it's like I get Thanksgiving and Christmas together. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's perfect synergy for those two things to happen on the same day.
Yeah, it really is. Very exciting stuff. We got a lot that we're going to get to. A lot of great questions you had. One of our favorite stories of the week. We're going to get into some Ring of Honor stuff. We'll talk a little bit about the new additions to the scouting department. A lot of stuff to get to. Ambush Light. We've got a Growl Pal spotlight this week. A good story for our Meth Raccoon Weird story of the week that I'm excited about getting into. Dad life. You know what we do. All the stuff coming your way. A reminder to all of you guys, go check out. We had PD&J plus Charlie up earlier this week, where we did an offensive line deep dive. The May 27th offensive line deep dive is for the real ones. So if you really want to get into it, great stuff. It was a fun conversation. I certainly enjoyed it. And so make sure you go check that out. That is up on the feed now and YouTube and all those things. New episode of Power Stacks is out, where they discuss Ellie's coolness, and Charlie talks about the dab along with the impact of the whip and the nay on culture a decade ago, which I was here for, very much here for.
That's enough to sell me on the episode as a whole. Just if Charlie's breaking down dance moves, I am there for it. That's what we've been missing.
That's what I want to see. So make sure you're subscribed to Power Stacks and checking that out on all things Reds going on right now. Also, we've got all our live shows in season that are going to be coming your way again, thanks to our great friends at BetMGM and Nation Kitchen and Bar down at the Banks. But while you're waiting for those, let us get you some free money. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can do it now. Use the bonus code Growler, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Download the app, sign up using the bonus code Growler, okay? Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive the same bet amount up to $1,500 in a bonus bet. If your bet loses, just make sure you use the bonus code Growler when you sign up. What do you think? Are you in? Are you in on this?
I feel like most people should be by now, but sometimes you get loyalty to a different sports book. Now's the time to jump over. Fire up your BetMGM account and then make your big first bet since you know it's going to get backed up. Now, somebody did tell me Jay was always the big proponent of betting against the Rockies because they're never going to win twice in a row. I did have a Growl Pal point out to me that it probably makes a little bit more sense to do like whoever's playing them -1.5, something like that. It's getting you a little bit better odds rather than just replacing whatever it is you're going to lose if they do randomly win a game. So that was his advice. I used it immediately and made money from that. And I think that's the only baseball bet I've hit in forever. I've not had a lot of luck. Are you much of a sports baseball gambler at all?
If I know that there's going to be a night where there's nothing else on and where I'm going to be like really watching the Reds game, or I'm at home by myself watching the Reds game, which I always have it on in some capacity, but if I'm a little more focused on it, sometimes I'll go and I'll throw down some sort of a combination, whether it's on a pitcher having a certain number of strikeouts and the Reds winning or something like that. So that's I usually just try to combo a few things in a game to root for. And definitely if I'm going to a game, you want to throw something on when you go there. If I'm going to any baseball game, throw a little something on there for somebody to hit a home run or hit some sort of a prop so that I can make it a little more exciting. I mean, come on, it's 2025. What are we doing?
This is America. Yeah, you've got to do that, right? So if any Growl Pals have a system that's working for them, I am not a good baseball bettor. So shoot that over to the Growler podcast at gmail.com so I can start to make some money this summer.
Right. So don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code Growler and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. All right, Mark, what is your favorite story of the week?
Well, this is a rumor that I heard around the Bengals verse that I need you to kind of look into a little bit more. Okay. I heard a rumor that Joe Burrow canceled his Batmobile order because I was thinking, I'm like, when is this going to show up? It should be coming around his way soon because I know he said it would take a year to get to him. He talked about it. I guess it was on Hard Knocks maybe when that came out.
Yep.
And the rumor was that he was displeased that was on the episode. He did not want that getting out there. And I feel like that is not enough of a reason to cancel your Batmobile order. You know, like, so what if are you going to just drive that in your own personal driveway? At some point, people would have seen a Batmobile, and you don't think that would have freaked them out a little bit if they didn't know what it was doing in their city?
Yeah, I don't know about the cancel. I do know he was not happy that got out. And didn't necessarily want all the attention on his Batmobile purchase. But I mean, I don't think you knew you were putting yourself out there anyway. Like unless he literally was just like, I only want to drive this around my driveway and never want to go out, like, which I don't understand the purpose of doing it other than to show people when they come over your house, look, check it out. I have a Batmobile. Like, you got to drive it somewhere. Yeah, you got to get it out on these streets.
I feel Burrow I still feel like he's going to bring a Super Bowl to Cincinnati someday, but I know for sure he was going to bring a Batmobile to Cincinnati. Like, I was counting on that, you know?
I don't think there's any question that what I would be fine with is if he says, look, I am not putting the Batmobile on the streets until it is part of the Super Bowl parade. And that's what he rolls, down Main Street on, is in the back of the Batmobile, sitting up, holding the Lombardi. Now that'd be
cool as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd be very Burrow-like, to rock it like that, which I appreciate.
But yeah, I was kind of bummed to hear that because I still wanted him to get the Batmobile. I was looking forward to seeing that parked outside Skyline randomly during the summer, if he's running in to pick up some conies. Like, oh, there's Joe. He's just in, now that's dead. If you're Joe Burrow, are there any backup cars that you're getting? Like any other famous vehicles throughout history? He's probably too young to be like a Kit from Knight Rider, because I barely can pull that reference. But there's got to be some other fun cars that he could have out there, right?
I always feel like it's sick if I see a DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Oh,
like
yeah.
If you had a replica, with a flux capacitor and all that stuff, and maybe he could get it to work and go back and the Bengals don't draft Jackson Carman.
Yeah.
and you could
That's
make a
the one
couple of
change you're going to
changes.
make, not the
Yeah,
end of
I
the
mean,
Super Bowl. It's just like, hey, come on, let's not blow our second round pick here.
yeah, or maybe something to adjust to the blocking of Aaron Donald on a couple of those plays. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd think that might be it.
It
So
might
the
make more
DeLorean
sense
certainly
than
makes sense to me.
more
I'd
sense
like to
than
see
going
that.
back in time to make out with your mom, or like that's not the most fulfilling angle that they took in the first approach to it. So yeah,
Yeah,
as long as he uses it for good, get him the DeLorean. I'm on
get him
board
the
with that.
DeLorean. I like that. All right. What would you do? What would you bring back?
I mean, if I'm Joe Burrow and I don't get the Batmobile, you could also go with like one of the cars from the Fast and the Furious, like Paul Walker had a pretty tricked out one that you could get. And I think it was the third or the fourth movie. It went for over $1 million. So it's not like it was a cheap version of it. That would be cool. Maybe not the best endorsement for a car that you'd be driving actively with, his track record. Now that I think about it a little bit more. So I don't know if I want the franchise quarterback rolling around in a super high powered car. Now I kind of would prefer something a little bit safer like the Batmobile, which seems like it would be very difficult to get hurt in. What are other famous cars that you could buy? I mean, you could go with the General Lee if you're going to go way back, give that to a hillbilly friend, probably somebody that he played with, in his Ohio State days. That's not going to be something I want to see him driving around in, but I could see him buying one of those because that would be another splashy purchase.
I kind of like, what about the car that Ricky Bobby drove in Talladega Nights that had me on the front?
Oh yeah,
the Bobcat logo, like that'd be a pretty sick one to have.
That would be a sick one too. Yeah,
just have me on the front, Joe Burrow driving down. I get behind that.
That. I'm on board with that. If he's got to fill that Batmobile sized hole in his garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is. I want you to go do some digging into that. Just see if that is canceled. I mean, that would mean there's another Batmobile on the market. Maybe we get all the Growl Pals to chip in and buy a show vehicle that we wrap with the logo and stuff. Park that outside BetMGM on show days. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't see it in the budget right now, but maybe if things progress. I don't know.
See how many of these parlays I can hit, and then maybe
you're gonna need a few more Rockies L's before that comes to fruition.
What's your favorite story of the week?
Well, we had the return of the Ring of Honor discussion kind of this week. We knew who the candidates were going to be, but now that we know the date of it kind of brought the Ring of Honor conversation back. And so the Jets game on October 26th, which the first time the Ring of Honor kind of gets dinged back into the 1 p.m. time slot. Those have been in primetime games because the Bengals have, had more home primetime games occasionally. And so the lack of them kind of had them put the Ring of Honor game into the Jets hole there on the 26th, which whatever, it's fine. I don't know that it has to be in a primetime game. The also, though, was put in there in the little note about the date was that changes are going to be either coming or being considered or discussed after this season. So kind of get you, what would you change? What would you change about the way that they are doing things now, and how would you, I think the thing that it's hard not to come back to is like, you got to put all these guys that are on the list in now.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You can't do this to Jim Breach or to Lamar Parrish or any of these guys. If you go down and you elect 2 people in this year, and then you're like, all right, and we're changing the rules and we're going to make it harder. We're going to add all these people in now. It's like, no, this list was kind of put out and you've ticked your way through it. And it's kind of felt like this order that's happening. So yeah, you got like everybody that's on this list needs to get in. They need to get, you have plenty of space. There's plenty of space in the stadium to put the names up. That these people deserve to be honored. They're all the ones that are left are older players. They're all from the 70s and 80s, that or left the Bengals in the early 90s. So, it seems like it's time to give everybody their due and put them in, and then start the slate clean with some more modern, newer players in a wider ballot of some sort. So I would put 2 in this year, and then I would put all 7 remaining in next year, and just spread it out. Each can have their own home game where they're one of the people that goes up. Basically, you have a Ring of Honor in some capacity, every game, almost every game at home.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor
just be like,
season.
look, we're clearing it out. We're honoring our past. We're doing it the right way. It's overdue. Knock this out. And then after that, I think you open it up to what the Hall of Fame has. Anyone that's Hall of Fame eligible so you've been retired for at least 5 years, and then you're on the ballot, and you can have the fan vote, some sort of a new calibration of fan vote and team pick that you can be purposely vague about so no one can hold it over your head or know exactly how it all worked out or why people were chosen, and spread it out however you want to. 1 each year, 2, maybe you spread it out 2 every couple of years, like whatever you want to do. I don't think it matters as much at that point, as long as you're still putting some people in. But once you feel like you've cleared out this initial list and you can open it up to a wider range, more recent players, the AJ Greens, the Andrew Whitworths, the Geno Atkinses of the world, and let them start getting their opportunity, their crack at it, I think the sooner you can do that, the better, rather than stretching that 7 out longer.
Yeah, that's the last thing that we need. I like the idea of the blanket. Everyone's getting in this season, all 7 guys. That would be huge. The only thing that I would like to see going forward is maybe you make the whole voting process a little more interesting, right? Like you get everyone that wants to place a ballot does it physically. You come to the stadium, everyone buys a ticket that wants to vote. You listen to each guy make a speech, make his case. Maybe they have somebody speak on behalf of them, whether it's a former teammate or somebody on the current team that loves that guy. Gets up, gives a little speech or presentation, then you do the voting right then. And that's how you get your answer. Just turn it into this big event.
Yeah. You have to write it down and announce it in front of. So you have to tell Max Montoya, not you this year, buddy, right to his face.
Yep.
Going for breach, right?
Yeah. Right.
Let me tell you what, Max Montoya would get a lot of votes if it was in person, of people who were just like, yeah, sorry, breach. I might be able to take you, but I know I can't take Max.
They're going to scratch out their vote and then, change that last second. You mentioned Geno Atkins. That reminded me, so we had that question on our social media this week about which player you would take from the past to join this 2025 Bengals roster. So you're taking this past Bengal in his prime. You're not worried about salary. I put that out there because I thought it was sort of an easy one. I thought everybody would coalesce around Geno Atkins being what this team, think about this team with Atkins, right? Like that should be a slam dunk, gives you that inside presence that you're desperately missing. And it didn't really turn out as conclusive as I thought. There were a lot of different answers to that one. Way more different answers than I expected. Like you get your Munoz, you get your Whitworths, guys that are still about the offensive line. And I understand the argument for some of those. Munoz, if you're going to get just great players, sometimes you just want to bring in the best guys. That makes sense. It's nice having that guy on your team. There were a few that I didn't love. Vontez Burfict got a few votes from people. I'm not sure that I want to throw that into the mix here. A lot more safety votes than I expected. Jesse Bates and some Reggie Nelson. AJ Green, that was one that I didn't think people were going to throw into that conversation. Like, don't we have enough receivers?
No.
Could you imagine Jamar T and AJ Green?
That's actually kind of a fun idea of just having AJ Green, T. Higgins, and so Jamar Chase. Jamar just playing. I mean, just diabolical stuff for Joe Burrow. Why not lean all the way in?
That offense might get 50 a game then. It doesn't matter if you've got no defense. Like those guys.
I would say I'm with you though. Like to me, this is a Geno Atkins question. This is give me 2012 or 2015, just absolute game wrecking Geno Atkins up the middle, and this defense feels dramatically different, far more different than any other player in terms of impact that you could put on there, as far as I'm concerned. Because I remember 2012 and 2015 Geno Atkins, and he changed games regularly. So that's a no-brainer for me. Now, Munoz has to be next just by the general quality. Like even though the position is technically filled solidly, like you just have to. It has to be Anthony Munoz. Like he's just that good. I don't care what you're doing with the other guys. Figure it out. But after that, I think I like Jesse Bates. I like Jesse Bates as an answer here, just specifically as terms of upgrade over the current starter, over Geno Stone. Like I would I would have some interest in that. But I know that's a little bit of recency bias and playing to angry Bengals fans about that are still bitter about that. I understand that. But if I'm looking at upgrade of position of weakness as my primary criteria here, he would be in the conversation for me for that fact.
Yeah, and that is kind of bittersweet, knowing what the money they could have thrown at him. But at the time, nobody was paying safeties. It didn't seem like that would be that hard to replace them.
Relitigating Jesse Bates, Mark. We're not going to do that today.
Yeah,
okay?
you're bringing it back up. You're stirring this.
I'm just saying that if you were trying to pull somebody out, that would give you a major upgrade at a position that you maybe aren't so sure about. That would be one.
What would Al Golden take here? Probably none of these guys. He'd probably take a reclamation project because he is able to turn all these people into all-stars anyway. So he would want the challenge.
Why even have good players when you have Al Golden? He's just going to make them good. You should just do nothing but try to acquire 7th-round picks so that Al can get his hands on them and turn them into stars.
Let him cook. Get Al in the stadium lease negotiations. Let him really just take over everything at this point. Give Al the Batmobile if Joe Burrow doesn't want it. We'll see.
Dude, I'll tell you what. If the Bengals win a Super Bowl with a defense that's ranked anywhere within sniffing distance of the top 10, Burrow's given the Batmobile to Al Golden as a gift. I can tell you that much.
We've got some good questions here from the Growl Pals. Do you want to jump into those, or should we do a quick last pitch for our partners? You want to?
Yeah, let's talk about it one more time. I guess we
have
been kind of talking about. We're doing all our business. We're setting up the season a little bit for people that want to be partners with us for the season coming up. It's been fun. I've been doing some meetings with some people. I've been meeting some awesome people, and it's kind of been exciting to kick around, brainstorm a bunch of ideas with some businesses here. So I'm liking it, and it seems we've got some exciting stuff on board. So if you are interested in partnering us, we kind of got entry points at all levels, from the top down all the way to just something as simple as being part of sponsoring a segment or something like that. Whatever you want to do, we're here to do it. We just want to make it fun and keep it in the kind of the community that we're trying to build. If you're a Growl Pal, that's all the better. That's what we're looking for. People that are kind of already in this. We want to try to help lift everybody up here in this community. So love it. Drop us a line. The Growler Podcast at gmail.com. Growler Podcast at gmail.com. And hit us up if you have any interest.
I mean, this is the first phase. Like you said, we want to keep it in the family with the Growl Pals. It's always cool when a Growl Pal's got a business or works somewhere and he gets the business on board, because like we've seen those relationships grow. It's fun. Like Stanio comes to the live shows. He hangs out. He gives away hats. We had the Growl Gals down there at the last live show too. Yeah. It's like, it becomes like a little Growl Pal family. And so they get, you get a little bit more bang for your buck working with us and keeping it in the family. That's fun. So let's make that happen. And then, the next step is going to the people that have money, but don't listen to us all the time, maybe, but are smart enough to advertise with us. We'll take their money too. But we would love to do business with Growl Pals first and foremost.
And we're not taking Diddy's money. We made that decision a long time ago, right?
That was a big contentious moment between us because you wanted to take Diddy's money. And I said, Paul, there's something off about this guy. It's going to come out sooner or later. And boy, we dodged that bullet. And I think
we sure did.
Lesser podcasts wouldn't have been able to navigate that the way that we did. But here we are.
No, because we have a level that people have to be able to hit. We vet our people. We want only the best here. Only the best people that we will associate with. So
we do vet most of our people.
Diddy free in 2025.
We did not vet the car detailing guy, but Danny's Mobile Detailing did not turn out to be a serial killer. He turned out to be legitimate. So
that one worked itself out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if you are a business person and you want to be part of the Growl Pal family here on the show, the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. That's also where you send your questions, of which we have some really good ones this week. Are you ready to jump into them?
Let's do it.
All right, first one. Can you guys break down the scouting department and everybody's roles? Are they area scouts, college, pro, more position scouts? So what can you tell us about the Bengals scouting department?
So reformation, I got to say, maybe the most under-discussed story in comparison to how often fans complain about it. That's happened over the last month. I mean, how often do we get questions in our inbox here about the size of the scouting staff and this, that, and the other. And I've been asking Duke Tobin this question forever since I've been on this beat about when he would want to actually grow the scouting staff and when does he want to have it bigger. And he's always kind of said, no, I don't need more voices. I just need the right voices. And including saying this back in February. Well, guess what? There's more scouts now. They have grown. They have expanded. So you had Christian Sarkisian leaves. Christian went and became the GM at Northwestern. So, but with his exit, we saw 2 scouts come in. Josh Hinch, who was in New England, and Tyler Ramsey, who was in Carolina and Seattle before that, to take over some of the duties there. So now we have one more. But, there's another addition. So Trey LaBounty, who was with Buffalo, has been added to the analytics department with Sam Francis. It does seem like that Trey's role is going to have a little bit more of a draft slant, a little bit more of that side. Sam is very active in season in terms of game plans and analytics, so that he's always doing a lot of his dives with the team there. So when you get into the draft stuff, having somebody that can be a little bit more of the analytics side of drafting and development and personnel development, all that stuff, I think is good. We'll learn more about what all that's actually going to look like in the coming weeks. But for now, it sounds like you're seeing multiple new voices as a part of the personnel department, and a increased number over there, which it's kind of interesting. It's something that we have talked about for a long time, and it's not massive. I mean, this is a person and a half or 2 people, depending on how they're counting it, and we'll learn more about that, like I said. But for now, it is more, and it is something that people have been asking for. They're not catching the Ravens just yet, but they are adding, and that's something.
And if the season is better this year, that's going to be something that some people glom onto. They're going to take that as vindication that they were right, that the only missing ingredient here was more scouts. And
I don't know about that. I mean, this would be it would be at least next year's draft would be the first time you could start to judge it,
and really spike the football
after the draft. I mean, this is the scout. So the way the kind of personnel season, this is now changing season. This is when you see the movement amongst scouts and people that kind of move up or maybe have lateral roles and things like that. After the draft happens, that's when all of that goes down, because it's kind of the one little bit of downtime before them, and when they dive fully into the next draft cycle.
Talking about draft cycle, we got a question about overall roster here. Now, is this roster better than the one last season, or are they just paying more for a similarly talented team? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, people are loving that line from Duke at the Combine.
I know.
That one back out.
It really I'm sure he regrets that one.
Yeah. In different ways, I think we've talked about this in the last couple of months, and now that we kind of have a little bit better view of it, let's go position by position with it. Okay. And I'll categorize them into better, the same, or worse. You could tell me if you feel like you disagree or you think that I'm off here. I think they're better at quarterback. I think they're better at running back. I think they're better at linebacker. A couple of draft picks, plus Logan Wilson maybe being fully healthy and a little bit more doing things that he's comfortable with. It seems like they're really leaning into Logan Wilson being the leader, which wasn't happening a lot before. So I like the linebacker room being better this year. I think the offensive line is better. I mean, when you look at the level that Kappa and Volson played at, I think Amarius Mims is going to be better. Orlando Brown played well. I think his expectations are to continue to play well. I think you have more hope of your guards playing better just by the nature of how bad it was last year. I don't like the swing tackle. I don't like what's happening there. But I still think on the whole, it's better. And a new offensive line coach, at least there's hope involved with that.
Yeah.
We don't know fully how that's going to vet out. You can listen to Wednesday's show if you want to hear more about that. So I think they're better. I would say the same to me would be wide receivers, kind of the same, which is good.
Yeah.
Considering what it could have been, and maybe better. Like Yoshivash, I think continues to be trending up. Like I think, if you're looking for a tick better, but mostly they're going to be the same. Safety is kind of the same. Like, you don't feel great about it, but it's basically the same. I don't think it's worse. Maybe Geno Stone will be better than he played in year 2, but otherwise, I think Jordan Battle you'd think would be better, and their depth probably isn't as good. Corner is probably the same. You're still hoping on guys to develop there. I mean, it's a lot of the same faces. So I think that to me hasn't changed. I think they're worse at tight end because without Eric All this year, they leaned so much into him. He really brought a lot to them there in that position group. But they're not bad there. I don't think they're as good because of that injury. And then the defensive line, like I could go either way on this. Like defensive tackle, edge. I guess it depends on what you're getting from Trey Hendrickson. It depends on the development. You have a couple of first-round picks, but does that mean they're better? Or are you just going to get very little? Or are you going to get what you got last year out of Miles Murphy? Or are you going to get Texas A&M Shamar Stewart? Or what are you going to get there? Are the defense tackles going to actually get better? Is BJ Hill going to regress as he gets older? Is Slayton going to be an improvement? Maybe, probably. I don't know. It's somewhere between worse and same probably on the defensive line. And so, but look at that. And you have more places getting better or staying the same than you do getting worse.
Yeah. And
as a whole.
But at the same time, I get the frustration because it's not as better as it could have been. Just getting rid of a few guys and drafting, like you're going to have a little bit better roster. And the fact that they were able to keep Higgins around, that helps that receiver room a ton, as you were hinting on. But I guess the big question is it the roster at the end of the season or the roster at the beginning of the season? Because going into last season, like you felt like, oh, Sheldon Rankins, he could even help stop the run. We'll see. He says he can. Trent Brown, you kind of liked having him as the swing tackle or even the starter at the beginning of the season. Those are two guys that got hurt or, pretty early. So like they were taken out of the mix. But if you're going based on the end of the season, you probably feel a little bit worse about safety maybe because you thought Geno Stone was going to be a lot better and did not have the best season. So what time period do you think that we got to base this on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You're probably basing it on just the general performance that happened last season if it's saying it's a better team. So I don't, in general, I think you can see places where they do seem like they're improved or expected to. But yeah, you're right. I mean, an episode that we should do here soon is some version of who would you most be willing to bet on this year and who would you most be willing to bet is a regression candidate this year or somebody who's going to disappoint, and who you can, because if you go back and look at that, it happens, man, that you end up with guys you thought were going to be great and end up falling off or vice versa. But where do you feel the best? And I think you feel pretty good about a lot of spots right now in spots that matter. And so I do think that they're a better team than they were last year, but and the Al Golden factor is obviously the variable hovering over the entire franchise over to whether he can make it happen.
No pressure, Al.
No pressure, Al.
Kind of keeping this in the draft world a little bit. This next question, he says, can we look back at he pulled a Jackson Carman Award? That's everyone's favorite topic. A player in the past who was handed a starting job after the draft and or free agency and completely fumbled it by being awful, out of shape, or just flat out beaten out of the job. Who do you think? Who would you give that to in recent history?
Trey Waynes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was in free agency, but he was signed to be a starter and he literally never did. And it was a combination of not being good, injury, all of that stuff. It never even worked from the very first moment. And they had to pay him a bunch of money. So he would probably, if we're counting free agency in there, he would probably be my leading candidate in that.
See, I was going to go with Brad Robbins because they did burn a 6th-round pick on Brad Robbins. And, he wasn't your punter of the future. He did not last very long. And that's a guy that if they're going to spend that kind of draft capital on a special teamer, you think that's going to lock you into a starting position for a few years. And the fact that he flamed out, I would throw him in contention for that. But I feel like also this is a question we should have saved for Who Dey Dark,
Yeah.
Invoking Jackson Carman and trying to put more people into that category.
Yeah, you're right. You're
this
right.
next
Which is a
question,
good reminder. Send in your questions for Who Dey Dark. It's only a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
Only a couple of Fridays away. June 13th is our Who Dey Dark episode. So if you've got something that you've always felt like you've wanted to ask that just felt a little too dark in the darkest timeline, any topic that has always felt so uncomfortable, like it's just absolutely stabbing yourself in the arm for no apparent reason, there is a place for it this summer. Who Dey Dark, June 13th. So get your questions into us for then.
But we're still in Who Dey Light mode today. So this
Yes.
next one is right up our alley. We got this one on Twitter. He said, is it just me or does Trey Hendrickson look like he was drawn by Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy fame? I could kind of see Trey Hendrickson as a cartoon character, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think this is even intended as an insult. But I think the way it comes off, like, I could see him being a cartoon dude, even with the way that his personality is, right? Where it just flips on a switch and Trey Hendrickson goes into blackout Trey mode. That feels very cartoony with like the fire shooting out of the ears. Now he's just unstoppable. 2 minutes later, kind of laid back and chill. During the offseason, he wants a trade. He's demanding this, he's demanding that. And then he's like totally on board. You forget about it the next month and just everything's different. I could kind of see the cartoon aspects of him.
Yeah. You know who he kind of is? He's PC Principal from South Park. Did you ever watch South Park when they have the PC Principal? He certainly when he showed up the other day, he had some PC Principal vibes to him a little bit. So I would say maybe not Seth MacFarlane. Maybe it's Trey Parker and Matt Stone, actually, who deserve credit for the caricature on that one. But I would say if we're talking about some other potential cartoon characters on this team, if we're looking into that and thinking who that would be, I think there's a couple that popped up for me as I started going through it when I saw this question. It's just natural to go there.
Yeah.
So I feel like Amarius Mims is kind of a cartoon character in that, like, you have to draw someone for them to actually look like that. Like, this isn't the way a real human being looks. It would have to be somebody that you drew to be some kind of a Monstar or something like that. I mean, it's just by the nature of his freakishness and size feels very cartoonish to me.
Right. That does feel like an animation decision, when you've got like, this is a cartoon about a bunch of fourth graders and they're all the same size. And then there's one that's like triple the size of everybody else. You're like, oh yeah, this is a cartoon. We take those leaps. So I'm with you on that. I could see that being a rational explanation for how big and strong that dude is.
I was talking with somebody on the sideline of practice the other day, and they were saying about how some of the interior offensive linemen just kind of look kind of small. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's fair to say that when they're standing next to Orlando Brown and Amarius Mims, who are they're freakish by NFL offensive tackle standards. Okay.
Yeah.
It kind of is not really fair. Ted Karras is not a small guy.
No.
He's like he's 6'3", 6'4", 6'4", 3, whatever he is, 310. I mean, he's not a small guy, but yeah, he looks small next to Amarius Mims. And it's like it's not really fair when you have the cartoonish figures on the outside to judge the size of some of these guys.
But I think you could throw Joe Burrow into that mix of cartoony looking players just because of all the different outfits he wears to games. That feels more like a cartoon move. Like, oh, now he's going to be in this, he's going to be in that. And it's a little over the top, but that's what we're getting away with because it's a cartoon and who cares? Like I could see that happening.
Logan Wilson has always reminded me of Guile from Street Fighter. Did you remember in the game Street Fighter?
Yeah.
Ripped, huge dude, flat top, like all business. He always kind of, it's mostly the blonde flat top. Especially in his younger years, he had that. Always gave me Guile vibes when I thought of him out there,
That's a compliment too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a compliment. Guile was awesome. I play with Guile all the time.
Look it up if you're not familiar with it. I definitely think that's a compliment for sure.
I would also say if there was a animated series for the Jersey Shore, Mike Gesicki would be on it. Like he's big Jersey Shore vibes. He's good times, and he's kind of a caricature of that a little bit in the locker room. And again, that is a compliment. I mean that in the greatest way as somebody who was a big fan of the early Jersey Shore show. But but it feels like he kind of is like a Jersey Shore caricature a little bit. Like he would be a character on that show. So I'd give him that. I'd give him that as a kind of a cartoonish Jersey Shore type.
Man, I try and go with you on a lot of your takes and a lot of your opinions, but somebody begging for a Jersey Shore animated show, I don't know if I could go that
I'm not
far.
asking for one. I'm saying if there was one, I feel like he's kind of a caricature of a Jersey Shore show.
And you're that big of an early season Jersey Shore fan?
I watched. It was funny back in the day. Cabs are here. I mean, there was a guy named Paulie D. I mean, what am I going to do?
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You got to embrace
invested.
that part of it. Yep. That makes sense. That checks out a little bit. I've come fully around on that, but still don't need the cartoon version of it.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, here's our next one. What were your favorite bars in Athens? Now we're getting a little bit later.
Yeah. I was a big Poppers primetime guy. So Poppers primetime 8 to 9 every night, half off, or it was. I don't think they do that anymore. But there was a time, and when I was in school, where 8 to 9 every night, you knew you could go in there, you could get your work done, right?
Yeah.
Do what you need to do for half the price right then. And people come in, and it starts out very calm. People's coming in from the night. Oh, hey, how's everybody doing? By the time it hits 9 o'clock, man, it is live in there. And it is a good time, as everyone has been trying to like make it all happen within the time frame. And the countdown to the end is exciting. All of it was great. So that moment in that bar is one of my favorite Athens bar memories and places.
I think I was always a courtside pizza was a big one. We were there a lot. Cat's Den, people love that. Lucky's. I spent a lot of time at Lucky's, which was a little bit more under the radar, but it was a hockey bar when I was there, and I was covering the hockey team a lot. So I ended up at that bar more than I expected to. Nice little bar. I do think this question might date us a little bit, because I don't know if all of these are still open in the version. We're throwing out names that have been out for like 10 years. I think Cat's Den switched at some point, and there's some different version of it now, but yeah, those were the glory years.
Cat's Eye is always like a popular one that you spend a lot of time at. I had one of my roommates worked at Zachary's, which was it was short-lived, I think.
Yeah.
But so I spent a lot of time in Zachary's, being handed.
Where was Zachary's?
Right in the middle of Court Street, right? Like right down,
right by
not
Wendy's?
far from Cat's Eye. Yeah. It wasn't, I don't know exactly where to, I'm trying to think of what it's in. The diner is nearby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good spot for a bar. Must not have been that good.
It was a great spot for a bar. It's probably all the free drinks they were giving away that put them out of business.
Paulie D put them out of business.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Ambush Light question. You ready for that?
Yeah, Ambush Light. Let's go. What do you got?
So this is one. He says he needs a hot take on parents staying for sports practice and watching versus a drop and go. At what age / time frame of practice do you become the bad parent versus the cringy helicopter parent?
Ooh, that's a good question. You have more sports coaching older kids experience on me. Where do you land on
There's
this?
a very clear answer to this, and it's age 8. That is when
8?
you start dropping them off and you're just gone. Because then the practices usually extend more than an hour. You get to an hour 15, and then you get to like U12, it's an hour and a half. You feel a lot better about the drop and go. Usually the fields are a little bit farther out at that age too, so you don't want to walk the kid all the way out there. Anything younger than that, like 7, 6, they're still prone to like meltdowns if they had a bad day at school, temper tantrums. You never know what's going to set a kid off. Then you kind of want to be close by so you can kind of handle that for the coach. You don't want them to take away from everybody else to deal with your kid that's pouting because he doesn't want to play the game or whatever. So yeah, hang out if your kid's 5 or 6. If your kid's 8, 9, 10, nobody wants you at that practice field. Go take that time. This is your time. Go run some errands or just listen to a podcast in a parking lot alone for an hour. That's my recommendation.
No, the drop off, getting stuff done, even if it's just sitting, like I'll bringing my computer and just sitting in my car and getting work done for an hour while volleyball practice happens or whatever, is a very freeing experience, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. It's great. But then you're right, though. If you're 5 and 6, there's also a very high chance of injury and not shake off quickly, not understanding I need to kind of shake this off and instead just breaking down. And so when they're younger, so I'm with, yeah, that's good. I'm glad 8, I'm just hitting 8 now for the first time. with the first 8-year-old season upcoming here. So I think I'm with you. I think we are hitting that moment. Although, do you make an exception for the dads from Varsity Blues? Those guys were awesome.
Yeah, you do make an exception. If you're going to add to the environment and, you know, bring something to the table here, then yeah, you know, absolutely get on board there. I also think too, like, I don't want to make this a blanket thing, like, because I would drop my daughter off for basketball practice a lot, but I traveled a ton in the winter. So there was one day that I stuck around to watch a little bit of practice because I'd missed some games and stuff. So I feel like that if it's a one-off, that's fine, but don't be the one that's hanging out all the time. Nobody wants you there. Not the kids, not the coaches.
No, critiquing your coaching.
Right. Know? Yelling out different things to them, that sort of thing, pulling the kid aside, whispering to him, get away from him.
Where's an ambush for you, Mark? This week?
Oh, okay.
Got one for you. Are you ready for an ambush?
Sure.
All right. It's a run, pass, or boot ambush. So run, pass, or boot. A heckler who persists throughout the entire show, a crowd that doesn't even crack a smile, or an opener that steals all of your jokes. What do you detest the most? What would you detest the most?
If I'm going with what I detest the most, I've got to run with the opener stealing jokes, because that's going to hurt you long term. That's going to really kill you for a longer period of time rather than just one bad night. And then I would pass on the not even cracking a smile, because that's not going to be a fun show to sit through. And I would boot the heckler persisting, because that is, you know, of the three of those, I can work with that. I'll get laughs from that guy throughout the whole night, just dunking on him. And if the rest of the set gets tanked because I have to babysit the drunk guy or the heckler and they don't kick him out in time, that's fine. You know, I've had nights like that before. I'll have nights like that again, but that's much better than somebody stealing your act and then trying to profit from it.
I saw there was a video going around of like a comedian who some heckler like threw a giant glass of water on them or something like that, and the owner came up and ended up like protecting them, and they're kicking the guy out or whatever. But the person just standing there, all of a sudden you just see from off stage all of this water flying, and they're just standing there like, what the hell just happened? I'm like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, there are some crazy people out there. I've seen them both ways. There was a video going around of a comic, and I don't even know the comic. He was a guitar act. And the heckler wasn't even being that crazy, but then the dude just smashed his guitar over the heckler's head. And he was like, all right, you guys all saw that you're on my side, right? And they're like, no, we are not. Like, you just physically assaulted some guy in the crowd. It was crazy. But then I've also seen the flip side of that with people, like you said, throwing stuff at comics. I know that there was a girl who got on Jimmy Kimmel after that because, you know, it helped. The clip of her dealing with it was very good. And it helped blow her up a level. But yeah, hecklers are part of the job. It sucks. It's a little bit more prevalent now than it used to be, just because there are so many videos of comics dealing with hecklers and making it funny that they think, oh, I'm helping the show, or I'm gonna take my moment to be part of this. And it's usually never as fun as they think it's gonna be.
Yeah. I don't like the heckler viral nature of comedy creeping in. That's like kind of taking away, like, let's not make that be like what this is about, you know?
Yeah, especially when you get like the drunk bros on the late Friday show. You're like, come on, no, everyone else paid money to be here. You're just making this entire show about you, and you're not that interesting. Yeah. You don't have that much to say.
Can we is it time for Growl Pal Spotlight?
I like this one too.
We've got for the troops moment of the week.
That without context, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't listen to the whole catalog.
Hopefully you listened. Hopefully you know that from before.
Cocaine for the troops makes sense if you're a real one. But this is something that we do where we highlight good causes, small businesses, all that kind of stuff. Again, keeping the Growl Pal family strong. And this is one that I love. This is some sibling rivalry pettiness, which is always what we want to endorse here. He starts off, and this is from Ryan. He says, hey, Paul and fun Uncle Mark, longtime listener, first-time emailer from Mason. I love the podcast. I've been using it to stay informed while getting harassed for my Bengals gear all year long in the crab-infested streets of Baltimore, where I now live. Not Bengals related, but he's asking for the Growl Pals to step up and help him beat his older brother in a fundraising event. The older brother convinced him to run the Marine Corps Marathon as part of Ainsley's Angels, where they will be pushing some amazing people for the entire 26.2 miles. It's the first marathon that the brothers have done together, and he says he knows that he would smoke him in a race, but it's not about the medals. It's about raising more money than him for an amazing cause. So he's asking for us to share and donate to his side so he can beat him in fundraising. He says he'll wear a bright orange headband with the Growler logo on it. And he says not to flex, but I have a full head of very long hair, so it's going to look really nice. Think Troy Polamalu, but not ruining our hopes and dreams. And his brother's also a listener on this. But so that makes it a little bit tougher for us to pick sides since they're both Growl Pals. But I feel like since he spoke up first, we've got to go with Ryan on this. How do you feel about supporting Ryan on his cause?
I support Ryan on his cause. I love the pettiness here. I'm all about this. I think I'm fully here. Team Ryan. I'm all for him.
Especially when the pettiness is for a good cause. At least they're fundraising for something that matters. If they were like, hey, can we get all the Growl Pals to TP my brother's house? And, that's the kind of pettiness we're not trying to encourage as much. Although I would entertain it. I would entertain that. I'm not. But this is at least for a good cause. So we will throw his link on the show notes and put it on our socials and stuff. So if any of you Growl Pals want to donate to something good and also a little bit of pettiness, it's a perfect marriage of the two. And you can do that.
We're gonna track these. I hope that they're gonna get back to us and track the stats on this one.
Yeah. Okay. How do we know what's a Growl Pal donation and what's not? Because if some anonymous rich guy just throws like $500 at him, I hope he at least any donation that comes in after we talked about it, we just count as our own. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
We influenced it. There's no doubt.
So Ryan, you better win this. If Ryan doesn't win, then we immediately have to switch our allegiances to the brother because he's also a listener. So
yes.
After this battle, we're only going to support one of these dudes, but we hope that it's you, Ryan, and we'll try our best to help.
All right. Should we get to the meth raccoon weird story of the week?
We should.
I think we
Out of respect to Chewy, the meth raccoon we talked about a few weeks ago, we have started taking a look at some of the weirder stories out there. This is one that caught my eye. I wanted to run by you. So there were two hikers in the Adirondacks who were tripping on mushrooms and called 911 because the third member of their party they thought was dead because they couldn't find the guy. So they just assumed he had perished.
Yeah.
So they called 911 and it turns out the dude was not dead because they were able to, I think the authorities were able to track down his phone number and call him and he answered immediately and he was reconnected with all of his friends at the campsite. But I love so much about this story, but just from the start, how does that change your friendship going forward? If you're on a hiking trip with two friends and they call 911 to report that you're dead.
How can they just give up so quickly?
And yeah, that's a great question.
There's no other possible explanation. I need a little more effort. Okay. If I go out there with you and Jay and you guys are like, I don't know, we look for 3 hours, he's dead. Like, can I get a little bit more hope, a little more effort? What I was saying when I was reading the story, it talks about how they determined the hikers were in an altered mental state. And then all of a sudden, supposedly the dead person called and just reported himself not injured. He called he called, I guess, down to whoever was looking for him. So he was just sitting around and he's like, I guess I should call people and see where everybody is. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. What's that call about? Like, what's that call like? Where does that come from? Where he's like, I guess I need to call someone and let them know. And they're just like, yeah, I'm just sitting out here. I don't know, eating some berries. It's all good.
But you know what? Maybe that says something about him too. Whereas like his buddies are like, oh no, we can't find our third dude. We're worried about him. Let's call 911. And the third dude's like, oh, I'm fine. Let's just announce that I'm fine to everybody. He's not worried that his two friends died. He didn't make the same call about like, I can't find them. They're both dead. Also,
maybe that guy's the problem.
Why is he not on mushrooms? How come you're on this hiking trip with your two boys and they both get to take drugs and you didn't get any of the drugs? Like they clearly don't like you as much.
Yeah, right? No, there's a lot going on here beyond just a couple of guys who decided that their friend was dead. There's a lot of personal relationship stuff that they probably need to sift through. They need therapy after this is probably what we're saying here.
But if you're a cop, what a great call to respond to, because you think you're going to be recovering a dead body. You think you're going to be hiking through the woods for 6 hours looking for that. And instead, you just have some friends that are just tripping that have changed the nature of their friendship going forward. And you get to see the immediate fallout of that. It's like watching your own Jerry Springer episode just live in the woods. Like,
yeah.
That's kind of fun.
I don't know how much I would trust going. I don't think going into the woods with drugs and just hoping that things turn out well, it was the best plan from the very beginning either, which is so we probably have a lot of things to
See, I
question.
was just about to pitch you on the Growl Pal hiking trip this summer.
The Growl Pal mushroom hike.
We get all the listeners out there. We're all taking different drugs, and then we're going to just see who survives the weekend and get all the first responders on watch.
I like it. Where are you next? Where are the comedy world taking you?
Oh, I forgot to plug last night's Indianapolis show. Whoops. Should have done that last week. Take that off the list. But I'll be in Appleton, Wisconsin. That is June 19th through 21st. And that is my next full weekend of shows because we are going on vacation next week. This is my dad life too. So we are finally doing our Disney trip. We're making that leap and it's come around for me. I know that you just got to go through it. So I'm going to need your advice on that. But for us, this is our one trip that we're doing. Like my wife and I've already put that down. We'll see if we stick to that. But we said that like this is our one shot. So, we'll pull out all the stops. We've been rewatching old Disney movies with them to kind of build the anticipation, introduce them to some classics they might have missed. And I did forget how dark some of these were. Like we started watching the Pirates movies with them. And like for as much as people complain about Mufasa dies and it's so sad. Spoiler alert, by the way. Yeah. Bambi's mom gets shot. Oh, the Disney movies always kill off parents right away. Those Pirates movies are kind of dark. They're like slitting throats left and right. They start the third one by literally hanging a child to death. Like it is not the vibe that you necessarily expect going into a Disney movie, but they all handled it for the most part. So we're fired up. Do you have any good last minute tips or advice for us?
I give the same piece of advice to everyone and I've said it probably on this show a bunch whenever we talked about Disney is that the eject button should always be in your hands whenever you're in the park and the day has gone sideways and the fun meter is empty. It cannot be recovered. Hit the eject button, go to the hotel pool. It's a sunk cost anyway, and just go make the day better. Everything will be fine. Everyone will be happy at the hotel pool. Everyone loves the hotel pool. Bad things don't happen at the hotel pool. It's always great. But
how do you structure those days? Were you building in the break midday like some people do?
Yeah, some days we have the midday break. Someday we would go back and like maybe eat lunch or something like that cuz you can get just your food delivered right to your room essentially from wherever I guess from Kroger or wherever down there as a delivery. Have that in that so you have like a good snack or some lunch stuff there in the room. So if you need to just go have a meal, you can if you want to go back. But really, I mean, it's just go early and go and have plans to stay however long you want to. But just know that if you're like, man, it's too hot. Everyone's complaining. We got caught in a long line. It threw our whole day off. I don't think that we're going to salvage it. There's more long lines in our future. Let's just bail. Let's hotel pool this thing and say that we gave it our best shot because you're not going to recover the money sticking around the park.
Yeah, we've already sort of baked that in of like taking the midday break around 2 or 3 for an hour or two just so we can rest a little and just to get out of some of the peak heat since of the time of year we're traveling is not ideal for Florida. So hopefully that is enough to kind of keep them sane. Our kids can hang pretty late too. So we figured like we'll give them a couple hours back at the hotel, then go for round 2, and maybe that'll prevent some meltdowns. I've already learned though, you can't involve the kids in any financial decisions. There's too much. Do you guys want to do X or Y or let's take a family vote on where we eat? We can't open that up because money means nothing to them, especially when you bring Disney into the mix. Like you're not going to, all right, you guys do you want to do the lightning lanes and get all these extra souvenirs or would you rather get your Invisalign? You've got to weigh these two things together. No kid's going to want to play the long game and be like, you're right. I should save this so my smile is straighter as an adult. Let's pass on these lightning lanes and wait in the sweltering sun for 90 minutes. So that's the biggest thing I'm starting with is not even bringing them into any of those discussions.
Yeah, that's for the best. You don't want them to have any piece of it. Also, don't forget, just learn the app, be comfortable in the app, own the online ordering. And if you are doing the lightning lanes one day or whatever, be all over that. There is never a time where you should stand in a line to order food. You should always be
I've heard people say that.
Thinking ahead, online ordering ahead, and just go and swoop it and sitting down. Important. You don't want to get caught in that world.
Yeah, that's
Everybody
a big one.
hungry.
What's going on in yours?
I have a dad life. We did the first trip to Kings Island last week, and I had a first happen to me ever at an amusement park in my life. And that is it was myself, my wife, and both our kids. We were on the Beastie and
Nice.
going up the hill, the first hill, and it stops midway up, pulling us up the first hill. And we're just have you ever been stuck on the tracks before?
I can't ever remember, maybe once on the racer when I was younger, but I don't ever actually have any memories of being stuck on a roller coaster. How did the kids handle that? That's not great for younger kids.
The kids were actually, there was one kid in front of us, I think, that was struggling a little bit with us, understandably. Our kids were really good with it. I was just trying to tell as many jokes as I could to keep it light as we stood out there. But it's funny because you're out there, and then you know how these like speaker systems at these rides are for the people that are at the front. They're never very good. This was a time where they really could have used a better speaker system, where it was like we're stuck out there, and all of a sudden over the speaker that's on the middle of the hill, it just comes on like, I'm like, oh man, I feel like we really needed to know what that person just said.
I think he said we just jump out.
Yeah, it could be anything. We have no idea what they said other than it was something. And it feels important as everyone that's in the station is like, turning their neck, trying to see if they can see us up there in the middle of the hill. And then it's like, are we going to get an opportunity to walk off? I've never gotten to walk down the tracks before. That seems like it actually might be fun. We kind of got excited about that. But then a guy in an orange vest showed up, and he comes and he walks up to the middle of the hill. And as he's coming up, we're all just wondering like what's going to happen next. And he comes back to these two adults who are in the middle, and either their seatbelt had become unbuckled or it was unbuckled in the beginning and they didn't know. And that's why they stopped the ride. And they had the, oh no, it's us reaction of like, oh no, we did this. And
wait, they stopped it because of an unbuckled seatbelt.
It knew that they were unbuckled, and so they stopped it before we went out onto the ride.
Dang, I was just about to say that, like, God bless the people that work those rides, but those aren't the ones you want to rely on in an emergency situation. No. But it sounds like then somebody jumped the gun here, because you don't shut down the ride because the seatbelt's not buckled. You have a lap bar, too. This is madness.
No, I think they do shut down the ride, in fact.
There was a lady, so we rode the Beastie a few weeks before you, and, we took our 5-year-old on it, and there was the ride in front of us. There was a woman who was freaking out because her seatbelt was too loose. And she was trying to wave to the attendant. She's like, oh, problem here. And the guy's like, the lap bar is going to keep you there. It's been like this for 60 years or whatever it was, like since it opened. And she just went, and she was fine. But in the moment, she was terrified. She turned to us. She's like, if I'm ever in court, you guys have to testify that I pointed this out before.
Oh, no.
And we're like, yeah,
we have a very strong rule in our house. We try to never be a witness. Because it's like it's going to follow you. You're going to have to be showing up in court. It's like, it's truly like, you just don't want to be a witness. Like, if you have to be, if you really see something, I will be, but I'd rather not be a witness. If you think something bad is about to happen, it's best to just leave.
Yeah, that's a bummer that it was a seatbelt thing, but I do think that it's worse if they like, oh, the ride is broken. Oh, we fixed the ride. Now we're going to send you over the super fast hill. I wouldn't feel great about that.
No, I didn't feel great. The epilogue to this story is that we go and we do our ride and come back. And of course they come back with a like, how's that ride? And we're all like, not great.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of like looking at us like, sorry guys. But then we look back, and rather than sending the next group on the next coaster, they sent an empty one out after us to like test it. And I'm like, why did we have to go out there? I don't like seeing that empty one go after us. Man. Why didn't we get to come down the steps and you ran ours empty to make sure whatever you were checking? I feel like I'm a little concerned that you just let us go and then you send the empty.
Yeah, dude, you got duped. This was nothing about the seatbelts at all. They were just trying to keep you guys from suing. And they're like, oh, it's these guys' seatbelts. And then as soon as you get back, they're like, send out nobody else. Send a few blanks. Something has gone tragically wrong. Let's see if it flies off the tracks first. Yeah, that could have gone tough for you.
Luckily, we all survived. So, all right. Good show, Mark.
Good times. Was fun.
You have a great trip to Disney. I hope you enjoy it next week. I don't like saying a guest that's coming on before I record it because you never know. But I'm going to do it here for the real ones that stuck around for the end of the show. We're doing the full nostalgia show with my guy, Jim Ozarski is going to come back on next week. And we are going to go back into we're going to break out we're going to play all the hits. We're going to play what's making Jim mad. We're going to do power rankings. We're going to do all the stuff, the bits that we used to do on the show back in the day. We'll tell our favorite, Marvin and AJ Green and Andy Dalton and Vontez Burfict stories from back in the day and kind of go back there. And then Jim's got some good insight. He covers the Bucks now for the Journal Sentinel in Milwaukee. So there's some crossover between in professional sports stuff that we'll get down to, but it's going to be a fun show for the real ones that have been around for a while are going to really enjoy the nostalgia show, bringing Jim O back. I'm excited to do a podcast with him again. It's been forever, so it's going to be a great time. So tune in for that in the Dey Light slot next week while you're off gallivanting in Orlando.
Yes, I'll be drunk at a children's amusement park. So this is a good, worthy replacement. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely love it. All right, thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.